Welcome to the Point Out Loud Women Trailblazers podcast, your gateway to the inspiring narratives of women at the forefront of change. Join us as we celebrate the strength and resilience of women leaders. In our Women Trailblazers series, we focus on centering women and all the ways we lead together. Centering women means elevating their voice, listening, and focusing on their constraints and challenges so that we can all take action. Proudly affiliated with the UWSP Women Trailblazers Conference, this podcast is a testament to our commitment to gender equity. I'm Lena Matese, co-founder of the UW Stevens Point Center for Women's Equity, Development, and Leadership. And I am just thrilled to co-host this journey with my friend Serena Vincent, an MBA student embodying the spirit of trailblazing. Together, let's embark on this empowering exploration. Our guest today is Sarah Ross, Director of the Women's Fund for the Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin. She works closely with the Women's Fund Advisory Board to champion issues important to women in Portage County and mobilize all women to give, engage, connect, and support one another. Sarah was an award-winning scenic, puppet, properties, and costume designer with credits at Forward Theater Company, Renaissance Theater Works, American Blues Theater, Marriott Theater Lincolnshire, Chicago Shakespeare Theater, the Joffrey Ballet, the Second City, Paramount Theater, Shattered Globe Theater, and the Theater at the Center, among others.
Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. We're so excited to have you.
Yes, thank you.
So how does your work with the Women's Fund of Portage County center women?
Okay, so I'm really excited to be able to talk about the Women's Fund because it has a long history here in the community. It was created by volunteers in the mid-90s, and this fund it's a program within the Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin has really grown over the preceding decades. And so I actually was very unfamiliar with this fund until quite recently in getting a lot of network contacts in other areas of the community, and was introduced to this fund that centers women. So it's making sure that women have an avenue to be a part of philanthropy that is then contributing back to a community that really supports thriving women. We have a lot of challenges, and this is not just Portage County where we're focused, but this is all across the world. And to meet those challenges, it takes a community effort. And a lot of that is being able to make sure that we're listening, that we're learning, we're understanding what the challenges are in any given community and sort of the root causes of that, to be able to come together and formulate brainstorm, and maybe not solutions, because all of these are wicked problems, as I've learned from Lena in that definition, but to be able to come together as women who have these experiences, to be able to talk about how we can begin to tackle some of these challenges with our community. So that's what the fund is doing. It's targeting philanthropy in order to support organizations that really center women and center issues important to Portage County women.
Yeah. You know, I hear you say that with such power and energy, and I know different parts of your story, but Sarah, what gets you to this moment in time when you think about the professional and personal trajectory that you've been on? Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into this partnership with the Women's Fund.
Yeah, it's maybe not a straight line.
Oh, excellent.
But I think it makes it all a bit more interesting. So I come from a pretty privileged background in the fact that I was always sort of supported to do whatever I wanted to do, that there weren't really limitations. Yeah. And so knowing that I was able to engage in a lot of different, I'm a very curious person by nature, so I was able to engage in a lot of different activities, and finally sort of landed on the performing arts in my early years. And so that's what I studied in school as an undergraduate, and then decided to take the path backstage and really focus in on design. And being a theatrical designer, so I'm mostly working in collaborative teams, building up brand new environments for storytelling. I'm creating characters that are puppets that come to life. I'm working with these really amazing teams, all thinking with these incredible, imaginative, innovative energies in order to build these worlds for storytelling, right? And so I have always been very interested in what it takes to build up trust and to build up community in order to have really strong collaborations. So I moved here to Stevens Point from Chicago most recently, where I was for just under a decade a freelance scenic costume, puppet, and props designer. But it was kind of, I was feeling a shift in what I wanted to be doing, and so decided that I really do like learning, and I really like learning through mentoring. So I had gotten my MFA and thought, you know what, it's time. I'm going to start looking for those academic positions. And that's how I landed here in central Wisconsin. I'm a bit of a nomad. I don't stay any one place very long. So I was thinking, I'll be here like for 4 years.
It's those non-straight lines.
Right. But the university culture brings about an easy way to make ties with a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different interests. And so I was able to get involved a little bit more deeply in this community than I have in any other community. So I'd always been in the arts crowd, but then then the crowd started to open up, like the Stevens Point Pilots Association, and then into the MBA here. And I was able to do a fellowship with educators around the state. And my worldview started to change in what it means to be truly connected to a community and have a sense of belongingness that I had only really captured through my career and not through other aspects. So given all that, I'm always going to support the arts. I think they're vitally important to bringing empathy, curiosity, civil discourse in a community. I think it makes a stronger community to have a strong arts program where there's access for everybody. But I was also feeling with COVID and the trauma that caused to that industry, wanting to refocus on the things that I really love about the performing arts. And that was, again, back to the first part of that answer, the people, and building those collaborative teams. And so it was understanding, gosh, I've had these experiences as a woman that I'd like to sort of reflect on and challenge a little bit. And because of the situation, getting into a community that now I very much call home, was relying a lot on the powerful women that were giving me a hand, that were showing me what's up, that were really kind of expanding my sense of belonging. And I appreciated that and decided that's really what I want to be able to do. And try and just help all women to really feel like there are real limitations, but I don't want their imagination to be limited. And so let's get rid of the barriers that do exist, the real challenges, so that the imagination can be set free and women are empowered to do the good work that they are really wanting to do.
Sarah Ross is a world builder, and she's been building the world backstage and front stage. You didn't get to see the dance she did, so I want to describe it to you. She put her hands in the air, and she waved a little to the left, and she waved a little to the right, and it was really fluid. And I see that as the imaginative space that you're inviting us into, the connected, imaginative space where we acknowledge real limitations, and yet we build. We build and we build and we build. And I've seen that in you. I see that world builder. You talked about puppets backstage and leaders front stage. That's what I see you building. How do you want to mobilize more of us into the work that you're leading, Sarah?
I want to acknowledge that I am amongst a really incredible group of women who have been able to help me through this transition. And I want to take that learning and help expand it as well. I want to provide opportunities where women are just very visible. And that doesn't mean exposure in a negative sort of way, or making sure that we're always pushing ahead of the line and and being visual and out there, kind of how the word feminism has been distorted either which way. But just to make sure that there is a space for women to really be seen authentically, and that space doesn't feel challenged, but it is a space of trust. So, right now, I think it's just making sure I'm participating in all of the good work that's already being done in the community. What organizations are making sure that women's voices are being raised a little bit and that we're really paying attention. So then how can I make sure that I am adding value to that by spreading the word? And this is stuff that I'm just learning myself of how to be a good steward, how to be a really good ally. And there's a long way to go with that. But I have now, just with the title, some resources to be able to do that. And I work with an incredible staff at the Community Foundation, where I also feel like that's a collaboration and a partnership, along with, like I just said, like I had started with that volunteer advisory board and all of our subcommittee members who are doing this just because they're passionate and they want to instill some change.
I know you mentioned trust and belonging and collaboration a lot. What impact do you think that has on women or the community?
I think it's everything. I think that I was just talking about this in class today. I was teaching before I got to join y'all, that without a sense of trust, there is not an opportunity to build relationships. That's pretty central. So what does it mean to be able to build that? There's a lot of work to do there. I think a lot of that is in representation. So, for instance, with the Women's Fund, we don't right now have that younger women generation, making decisions, helping to plan, thinking about what the goals are. And I think there is a real desire to change that. That's a voice that is missing from the conversation in order to be able to feel like we're capturing a community, And it's really remarkable for me to experience, too, even a bit of division it's not division, but this silo that's created at UWSP on campus, and that what I'm experiencing as an MBA student is that those studies, that learning, are so closely tied to core elements of performing arts scholarship, that to be able to do the work on stage and off stage, whether you're talking about performers on stage building trust in order to make these authentic performances, to give justice to really good storytelling, you have to have a trust there. And in some instances, you have to build that up within hours because you only have so many days of rehearsal before the show is up. And I feel it's the same backstage, too, of being able to know when you need to push and when you need to lead and when you need to make sure that you're letting your others who are a part of your a collaborative team do the leading. And so I think in terms of a collaboration or stronger ties with the women in business, that's where we need to really work on is building up that trust so that both sides are feeling like excitement and energy to be able to feel like, okay, we're connected to this larger picture of Portage County or Central Wisconsin or the world, whatever it is. I think that it's also allyship, making sure that, I'm in my mid-40s, that I'm also continuing to learn and listen to women who are in their early 20s. And then listening to women who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. There's always something, there's always a perspective to be able to be valued and to learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be really cool to kind of be able to, start collaborating women in business with the Women's Fund, starting with the allyship course. I know, Lena, you did a really big part in starting the allyship course. What is something that stood out to you about kind of developing it?
Right now, I'm sitting in what Sarah said about trust and belonging and silos. So for me, I make the world easier to navigate when I narrow it, right? When the people I talk to on campus are in my discipline, when the people I spend time with look like me and sound like me, and that's an efficient way to live. But I'm not sure, I'm actually quite sure that it's not a whole way to live, right? And I find that particularly since COVID, I can hunker down into the smallness of my life. And Sarah, every time I spend time with her, is inviting me into a bigger world. A bigger world. So I attend arts events now. Sarah's got me making reservations to go do arts things. One place that Sarah and I end up a lot together is at Nordic Night Public Sauna, where we're doing community sauna together. Who knew how much we needed a community sauna here? Shout out to Nicole Terrell and giving us a place where we can establish trust through these super casual conversations. And it's just all, who knew how important the incidental stuff was, right? Like I sit next to you on a bench and it gets really hot around us. And now every time I see you, I feel differently about you, right? So why am I developing the allyship course? Well, the last thing we want to do is tell people that they're not good allies. And the last thing we want to do is hit people over the head with statistics about the pain we're in. Like, there are a lot of people on this planet in pain right now, 100 feet to the left and 100 feet to the right. There are people who are suffering because of how much money they earn, because of their gender, because of the color of their skin, because of the combination of those things, right? When those disparities begin to layer, because of how they grew up. It goes on. There could be 100 things. It's so easy for me not to notice those things. And I don't want to pummel people with those facts, but I want to do what Sarah asks me to do, which is to go into spaces I haven't been before, spaces that I don't regularly visit. I want to make my life bigger. Does that make sense? But I don't, not big, not too big that I can't be in it still. So I would just say what we're doing through the allyship course is we're asking people, who are you extending yourself to? Who are you getting, who's that new person that you're getting to know? How are you taking yourself into places that you don't regularly go so that you can extend belonging there versus creating a little empire and saying, well, everybody belongs here. There's a difference. Mm-hmm. Have you found that to be so? The difference between, come into my empire, you belong, versus taking yourself and learning about what it means to belong over there.
Oh, yeah. I think that how I'm viewing allyship now is just practice of being around people, being around new people, being around folks that you are very familiar with, but maybe in a different way. And I think that is even though we're pretty social critters, I think that comes with a lot of fear. It comes with a lot of fear because we don't want to make a mistake. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, or we're coming in with some judgment for good reason, maybe from your own personal experience. And so you're immediately throwing up gates and barriers and nope, that I don't need to be associated with that person telling that story for whatever reason. So if folks don't have an opportunity to practice in a place where they feel like there is trust, that there is some safety, that there is some grace, then it's going to be really difficult to build up civil discourse. It's going to be really difficult to talk about the really hard things if we can't talk about the things that really connect us.
Wait. Say that again. It's going to be what? It's going to be hard to talk about the hard things if we can't talk about the things that connect us. Oh,
that's right. Yeah.
I feel power. I feel so much power in that.
Yeah. So it is a good thing to be able to be I'm going to try out Nordic Night Sauna. And I'm going to go to a community sauna event, and I'm going to meet 6 strangers in their skivvies. I think that is a really good place for folks who have some fear or who focus on reflection or seeing how big is my bubble? You know, do I have a bubble? And I think that's a good, you know, it doesn't have to be the sauna, but a place where there is some grace to just figure out how to be a people person. Because I'm pretty introverted, and it takes a lot of energy, but it takes a lot of practice. So the Women's Fund has these learning events, and we're trying to build up that invitation list so that we're getting a lot of different folks from a lot of different sectors. We're getting moms in there, we're getting other caretakers, we're getting professional women, we're getting students in, we're getting all of these people, service providers, service users, to have conversations. And that makes me really happy, because whatever comes out of that, great knowledge, yes. A better understanding of maybe setting priorities of what we're funding, yes. But just connecting with other human beings is powerful.
Yeah. So, folks, she did it again. She was going left to right with the arms, and I when you do that, I see gathering. I see you pulling people together. I see you gathering. And so, Serena, I know you want to ask about hope.
I do. So when you think about women and our role in society, what gives you the most hope?
Just the resilience that I see day to day. I have such privilege, especially now that I'm a bit more out in the community and I'm working with this amazing advisory board for the Women's Fund. I'm able to see the strength, the resilience, the humor, even when what I'm hearing are pretty challenging stories and experiences, when I'm hearing trauma, when I'm hearing that women are feeling a lack of love, a lack of visibility, we're still having a good time laughing and connecting and appreciating each other's company, valuing that back and forth. So that gives me a lot of hope. And it also lights a fire underneath my ass and say, like, great, that stuff that you're talking about that is challenging, you take care of you, and I'm going to take this story, and we're going to try and do something about it. Yeah. So that gives me a lot of hope.
I think you gave us a great title for the episode today. Here's how I'm seeing it's a little long, but find people to have a good time with. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah, exactly. Life's too short otherwise. Yeah.
I love it. So kind of talking about going along with that hope question, how can we extend that and uplift our next generation, or how can we encourage them to also feel empowered enough to step up and step forward and carry that same legacy? How can we recharge the next generation and do that?
Thank you for this question. And I think that relies on, you helping to answer that as being someone who is a younger generation and a really impactful leader, right? Like you've got your eye on a lot of really wonderful projects. You're a pioneer. You're starting new things and you're bringing people along. You're building little legacies already and seeing other women come and take the reins. I don't know that I can do that. Like, as an individual, I don't know that I can do that if I don't see you doing that, right? So that's, again, sitting in privilege of having 7 years taught here and being able to learn from all of these really incredible students. And making sure I do that with intention. I think as a community, that also needs to be reflected. How can we as individuals sort of take a moment and see, who am I not listening to? And maybe I need to let that voice in. And then as a community, make sure that we are participating actively as allies, as you said, to build up. Because when we're building up individuals, we're building up the whole community, right?
When we're building up individuals, we're building up the whole community. I love those words. Bell Hooks. So we wrapping up today with the words of Bell Hooks. Bell said, I choose to reappropriate the term feminism, to focus on the fact that to be feminist in any authentic sense of the term is to want for all people, female and male, liberation from sexist role patterns, domination, oppression. Anything you want to ask us to do in the spirit of bell hooks to further unleash women in our world, in our community?
I think we need to stop trying to place identity on individuals. Instead, let us celebrate the identities that folks are wanting to present to us in terms of that particular beautiful quote from bell hooks of that there aren't roles we need to fit into, predetermined roles, that let's sort of take away that script and be able to celebrate that identity is something that comes from the self, right? Instead of trying to fight that. So I fully appreciate living in an era where I don't have to have a husband in order just to do day-to-day business, that I can be a mother, but then I don't have to be a mother. I'm not seen as, well, maybe I am, but maybe when I take on this sort of a idea of a witch or like a mother goddess or something that I do have a lot of plants and dogs at this point, but how those identities can also change and shift with age, with experience, and that's okay too. That we can still celebrate that and as allies say yes to that. I think that is sort of what I take from bell hooks and her brilliance.
Well, wrapping up today, let's lean into that wisdom that Sarah brings us. First, let's just go ahead and be all the women we are, all of them at once. Yeah? What do you think? Can we do that?
Yes, please.
Yes. I'm working on the bravery to be all the women I am, and to be invitational to myself, right? So that's one wisdom. I also hear another wisdom though that has to do with being human, and if you want to learn more about how to be human at its deep and true and funnest self, I suggest you hang out with Sarah Ross. We thank you for joining us today, Sarah, and we loved learning about the Women's Fund. We look forward to all the ways we're going to be more connected.
Oh my gosh, thank y'all so much. This makes my heart very happy, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of the Point Out Loud Women Trailblazers podcast. We hope the stories and insights shared today have inspired you to embrace your own leadership journey and uplift the voices of women around you. This episode was produced by Lee Vaughter, campus videographer, Logan Bidon, senior media studies student, and Brittany Kaminsky, marketing and creative services. Discover more about all Point Out Loud podcasts by visiting uwsp.edu/podcast. Join us next time for more captivating conversations and compelling narratives. Until then, keep blazing trails and amplifying the power of women everywhere.